Nice.
We have a good time. Boom. Here's where we do the thing where we wonder if we're live because there's like a 30-second lag. Do it live. All right. Yeah, I think we're. Oh, we're definitely live right now. All right, so check it out. I workshop last week to get a. I've been workshopping my intro because the other one was kind of corny. It's like follow this cool dad. Check it out. What if I started with this? Picture it, some dreary cut scene of different, back and forths, some kind of crazy stock footage. It says, welcome weary travelers to a podcast just off the beaten path. Forget everything you knew and everything they taught you. Dive deep down rabbit holes of high strangeness, hypotheses, and forgotten history we're doomed to repeat. This is the Bobby Dizzle podcast.
Awesome.
Boom.
Oh
Boom.
yeah.
I like it.
Oh yeah.
Just in time for our buddy Long Island to pop on. You know Long Island, Zeus?
Oh yeah. What's up, Long Island? How's it
Yeah,
going,
that
man?
dude is crazy. I like lead conversations. Oh, you know Long Island Bigfoot? Yeah, me and him are home dogs. I gotta get his buddy Montauk on here. We'll get cranking. Today's guest is Mr. Zeus Platt, host of Project Sasquatch, lifelong experiencer, researcher. He's seen them, he's touched them to a degree. We'll talk about that. And you can watch Project Sasquatch on the link in the description of this video. Zeus, what is going on? We've been chatting for a month, and I'm ready to just let me and Wild Trees pick your brain. How's it going?
Oh, not bad. I'm getting kind of stir crazy, cabin fever. It's
Ooh, I bet.
the winter up here is just horrible. Work, home. I've tried to get out a few times just to kind of check it out, but the snow is a foot and more, way more deep, and it's driving me mad. I want to get out there and investigate some more because this is what I do. I just want to educate people on the subject and show evidence of these creatures. And wintertime comes along, I can't do that. All I do is work, come home.
But you would think that maybe wintertime might be a hot time for it because it is makes the I know it makes outdoor hunting better as far as in this
No,
state, but
actually, the Sasquatch kind of take off. They run to their winter grounds wherever that may be. I'm thinking it's kind of south of here, kind of southeast. They've they've even been spotted on the high plains outside of like Windsor. Windsor had a sighting last year, and that's all flat country out there, and it was spotted coming in towards the mountain. So, and that was during the spring. They migrate with elk and deer and stuff, the game animals. So just kind of migrate out of the areas. I'm sure there's probably some that hang out when they're okay to survive in this kind of environment because it's really bad. The winds are 80 mile an hour, 30 below. Oh, it's horrible.
I wondered if like maybe if they can like no clip in and out like we were talking about. Maybe they no clip to Costa Rica for the wintertime, something like that.
No, they don't go that far south. They go south to a little bit at the lower elevation because the elevation up here, like where I'm sitting at right now, is around 8,100 feet, and you get a
Oh,
little
really?
bit.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the
Wow.
mountains behind me, they're reaching 13, 14, over 14,000 foot. The winters are bad up here, but they'll migrate out and they'll go to their winter grounds because what I do is I'll study their movement patterns, how they move, spring, summer, fall, and I try to. And when wintertime comes along, I figure, oh, they're gone. They've migrated out, and I've just dependent on sightings and what I've put in as investigating and researching and stuff. Is I figured out, okay, well they head east, they head south, slightly southwest because they can't go
Mm-hmm.
west. The mountains are still big up there. It's very cold, big, high country. They move south a little bit, and that's a little lower country. It hits about 5,000 to 6,000 feet. The winter's not going to be as bad there, not like up here.
Hmm.
And
That makes sense.
all you got to do is 30, 40, 50 miles down. Either way, you've got a better winter habitat, unlike up here.
It's crazy. What do you think they hang out? They can feel the temperature when they're kind of on the other side.
Yeah, man, they know the weather patterns.
Mm-hmm.
They have their ways, and like I don't. This is just for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was working as a maintenance guy up above. Uh, what's that called? Fall Creek area, and there was the one of the ladies that tends to the hot tubs around there. She told me that there
Mm-hmm.
she's heard and seen something running through the forest just above. And just above that, there's nothing but woods for miles upon miles and miles. And I don't typically gift. Gifting
Mm-hmm.
is a horrible, horrible, horrible idea.
Oh yeah, you had mentioned that. That was the first time I've ever heard anybody say that it
Yeah,
wasn't a horrible idea.
yeah, horrible idea. If you got to gift them, you just gift them like toys and stuff like that, and they take to that a lot better. They won't harass you, and bad things can happen to you. But so I decided to give. I had in my lunch. I had Oreo Cadbury type eggs, and I had a little handful of like Chips Ahoy cookies. And I thought, oh, I'm going to run up there and make a little short video, just to experiment and document, see what I could find. And so I took these little eggs, and I took these little cookies, and I ran up probably 400 yards, 300 yards up the side of this mountain. Went up there. There was a nice rock. It was flat on top. I said, okay, cool. I'm going to stick them right here. And
Mm-hmm.
I put them there, came back down, did my work. The next morning, first thing I did, I stopped up there, went back up the hill, hiked up there. They were still sitting there. I'm like, oh, okay. Sometimes it take a couple of days. Well, those gifts, the food that I left them, sat there until they knew it was going to snow. So they knew it was going to snow that night. So what they
Mm.
did, they came down, took the gifts. They and I got video of it, and they unwrapped. They took one of the eggs. They took another egg, and they unwrapped it. No claw marks, no teeth marks, no damage to the very fine tin foil wrapped around it.
Mm-hmm.
It was taken with hands, and it was slightly peeled back. And I think they got annoyed with it because they're fairly hard to peel. And he threw it back down on the rock. It snowed that night, so I won't find tracks. They
Mm-hmm.
did that, so I will not find tracks in the dirt around that rock. So if I come back and they have taken it and there was no snow, that's a possibility I could see some tracks. They knew it was going to snow, so they came in, took the gifts, did their thing, left. It snowed, and when I got up there was no tracks, but the gifts were gone except for one of the eggs was half unwrapped. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I've
I
seen
hear you.
that several times of how they actually, I think they know weather patterns when it's going to rain, when it's going to snow, different stuff like that.
It makes sense if they can like quasi read minds and mess with equipment. They could definitely know when it's going to snow or not.
Yeah, definitely.
What was it we were talking earlier? What was you saying about the and it's common. It's a common theme amongst the Sasquatch and Bigfoot and paranormal and UFO that they mess with the equipment. What experience have you had with the equipment manipulation? Yeah, that's one of the things I want to talk about.
Yeah, that happens to me often.
You were saying you had a couple stories how it happened recently.
Frustratingly often, and frankly, it doesn't really surprise me anymore. It pisses me off more than anything because I come back down here. I have all my video evidence. I come in. I'm going to load it up, go through it. I come down here, load it up, and half the files are corrupted. Or there's some pieces of video that's not there when I plainly was recording video. And I've taken my cell phone and take pictures of certain structures, maybe even some footprints. And I'll come down here and I kind of learned my lesson, check it before I leave. Check my video, kind of run through it before I leave the area because I will go back here and I kind of learned my lesson, check it before I leave. And I'll go.
Sorry about that. Wild Tree had issue there.
Yeah, I thought that was him starting to talk. But anyway, so I was just fairly recently, just before winter hit. This is just one instant. It was a battery thing,
Mhm.
and I got this really nice 4K camcorder. It takes really good imagery, and I had some money donated to me to help me buy equipment. Every now and then, somebody will donate either equipment or money to help buy equipment, and that's exactly what I do. I put it towards this stuff. So I bought the camcorder, and I've been using that now, probably 2 summers now, I want to say. But anyways, I was up at Leadville. Leadville's a hot spot for Sasquatch. I went up there, found some really good evidence. I ran into a lady, she's a follower of mine, and I was on a train ride, and she just happened to be on it, her and three others, and they were like, "Oh my God, we watch your stuff. You get really good stuff," and blah blah blah. And I was like, "Oh, cool," And she asked if she can go
Mhm.
investigate with me. And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'll invite anybody to come out and investigate with me and experience this for themselves." Because I tend to find these little these Sasquatch up here like all the time wherever I'm at. I find them all the time. I don't know. Maybe it's because I know how to track them because I spent my life in the woods tracking animals. So we go back there and I kind of tracked them into an area. I looked across the mountain and I look at the trees, I look at the water, I look at the weather patterns, I look at the sunlight, how it hits valleys, how it hits mountain faces. Again, I look at other trees, because I know what kind of trees they like to hang out in, and just their movement patterns wherever I go.
Mhm.
Valleys, ridges, and I had something that sounded like it charged us on the one side, and it was definitely bipedal. And I was looking right at the structure. I was videotaped it and everything. When I shut the camera off, it sounded like it came at me, and I yelled at it. I made these sounds, hoo sounds, and it stopped. And then I got nervous, and I came back down, and I told Dawn and them. I said we need to go to the other side of that lake. Let's go check that out. I bet you that's a good spot over there. I just know, you know what I mean.
Mhm.
We went over to that spot. Sure enough, they're wood knocking, they're whistling, there's structures over there. So I had a full one of the batteries. I have a couple, three of them or so, and they last 5 hours of straight record time. So I got my battery in, and I'm recording some of the evidence, and they started wood knocking and whistling, and then my full battery went from full to telling me it's going to die in
Wow.
5 minutes. 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. I
Mhm.
said, "Are you kidding me? I just threw this battery in." And I said, "This is the kind of stuff that they do. They somehow they draw that energy out of it." So I took the battery out. I put it in my vest pocket, and I grabbed a new battery. I stuck it in there. I told Dawn, I said, "Let's cross the little dirt road and go up this way." I said, I feel like they're up in here." And you get feelings. I get those feelings a lot, and they're usually pretty darn correct. So I put the brand new full battery in, 5 hours of recording time. I stuck it in. We went up. We went up about 100 yards, ran into the first structure. I got to document all the structures and all the evidence to do with Sasquatch. I flipped it open. I'm starting to record this structures, and it wasn't 5 minutes, and it was telling me my battery's going to die. My camera's going to shut down. I said again. I said, "Are you kidding me?"
Hmm.
But keep in mind, I have that empty battery from the first in my pocket.
Mhm.
That thing was empty. It was going to shut me down. And I said, "Well, son of a bitch. I told Don, I said, "Well, hang on."
Son of a
I
bitch.
told I told Don, I said, "Well, let me check this other battery. Maybe there's just enough juice just to record this little bit of stuff for about 10 minutes or so."
Mhm.
And I took the other empty battery out. I stuck it in this pocket, grabbed the empty one just to see if I had any in there. Put it in, turned the camcorder on, full
Full.
battery,
Full battery.
plumb
So
full.
they were just draining it like real time, just
Drain it, and then it
Obi-Wan style.
drew energy back into it somehow.
I think that they when they I don't what do you call it when they go to the fourth dimension? What is the term? I call it no clipping just for lack of a better term.
I'm not entirely sure what exactly
Okay,
they.
so you don't have like a term for it. I just thought when they go over there, I think that they can like they're kind of omnipotent because they you saw the video on the game camera and you got home and it wasn't there. So it feels like
Yeah,
they can get into it in real time.
yeah.
Same with Skinwalker Ranch. They've talked about that out there. Same kind of thing.
It's something to do. Aliens, they can do the same thing. They can manipulate your equipment, but there's many times that I've been out in the woods and I've gotten Sasquatch on video, and I'll be damned if I'm showing crystal clear image, and then all of a sudden my camcorder starts glitching out of focus, acting up, and the next thing you know, there's a head popping up over the logs. And then I could like the one up here that looked like little silverback gorillas, little guys, and they looked
Mm-hmm.
human, half silverback, half human. Same thing happened there. Video got all kind of blurry and out of focus. You could see him in there. You could see his head. You could see his brow ridge. You could see his eyes were glowing white. And then after he passed, oh, guess what? I've got crystal clear image again. After he left the area, and it's happened many times. Like I went up here, Hermit. I was documenting a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
structures up there, and there was these two structures inside this small runoff pond, and they were like teepee type structures, real wide at the bottom. Definitely not made by human. Humans would like to make them real kind of clean, leaned at the top. They're not all crazy woven in, and real wide at the bottom, real dirty looking.
Mm-hmm.
Got stuff in the middle of them,
Are
and
they freestanding when you find them like that?
most of the time.
Okay.
And,
I see a lot of people post pictures of just limbs that fall. I'm like, that's not as bad as I'd like it to be. It's not a Sasquatch. It's a limb. Like I found 15 on my dad's 20 acres. I'm like, we're not.
well,
Like
there's some people that they get a little overexcited about what
they do.
find, and they claim it's Sasquatch, but it's a lot of it's not. But most of all the stuff that I find and document is definite
Mm-hmm.
structures, evidence that I find of these creatures, X's and bends, and I was actually trying to find that picture what I was telling you about. But anyway, I went up and I took the picture. I actually took video evidence. I'm videotaping it. I find a tree that's upside down. It's actually the root ball has been broken off, so it was just the trunk that's been snapped off from the root ball, and the tree was upside down. And I did all my evidence. I was documenting my evidence, and then I get home and half of it's gone. It doesn't exist in it doesn't exist in my camcorder or my phone. Oh,
It's so frustrating.
that really pissed me off. And I said, okay, you want to play games? And I went back up there, walked back up in there, and my wife was waiting in the truck because she seen what happened, and she said, I seen you. You were clearly I was clearly videoing this stuff and taking pictures. And so I went back up and I said, okay, you want to play? And I went back up and I got those pictures again. And this time they stayed on my, because they probably knew, well, this guy's crazy. He'll just, if they're gone when he gets back, or if they're not on there, he's just going to stay here until he gets them.
You would think they'd want they wouldn't mind at least one time, one slip up in 1,000 years. Like, damn, y'all, it's the most frustrating thing I deal with, and I have no idea why I care. It has no bearing on my life whatsoever. But if I knew without a shadow of a doubt that it was real, I would be a happier person. It would just make my life better. I don't.
And I've throughout the years since I first seen my family in Sasquatch when I was 11 or 12, see, here's the picture that I was talking about. It's got my old logo on it, but I don't know if you could see that.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
See those?
Yeah, the teepee.
There's two of them in the pond, and that's the one that they wouldn't let me keep on my phone. And there's the upside down tree. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Oh yeah, it's now. There it is. Yeah. Wow, so they turned it upside down.
Yeah, see the top's broken there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, the bottom of the tree, the root ball's gone, and then the rest of the tree is sticking in the ground.
That's weird. That's like a thread almost.
Yeah. But I've had it happen many times wherever I was at, Pagosa Springs. I'd just be documenting things with my equipment, and it either goes blurry, it glitches out, battery dies, uh, corrupted video, corrupted pictures. I'll have to take video, go back and do it all over again. Well, it's happened to me quite a bit, and there's some mysterious stuff that's kind of over our head what they're capable of doing.
You know, in the first portion of that, I know you think it's frustrating. I think it's frustrating that we don't have that kind of proof. But the fact that everybody like you has the same story is kind of optimistic.
Yeah.
Like it's like, well, there's no. They're like, well, that's not. It can't exist because there's no blurry photos. I'm like, well, like it seems to be the same. Nobody, you're not lying about it. The two other people we know aren't lying about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like why would you tell the same exact story of getting back to your house and it not being there?
Yeah,
I've heard that so many times. It's amazing. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
Did you watch the movie Nope?
Yeah, that was wild.
Did that not send chills down your spine?
Yeah, that would be a strange creature, though. I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not going to say something like that wouldn't exist. The shit I've seen out in the woods.
Oh, well, I just meant like the concept of the camera and the electronics and how they.
Oh yeah, that's what it reminded me of when I was watching that. My wife had mentioned that, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of.
It's literally. They literally told how the Patterson footage happened without telling us. Same damn camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I got to thinking about it. Like I just forgot this. Patterson had that spring-loaded camera.
Yeah, it was old. The old non-digital film, and you use something like that out there, they can't really manipulate that. There's really no electronics. It was just
the day that hit me. I woke up in the middle of the night. I think I called Wild Trees or texted him or something. I can't remember. I was like, well, "Holy shit!" Patterson was not an electronic camera.
Yeah.
And what's the one thing? What's the one thing everybody says nowadays? He goes, "Everybody's got a goddamn, phone in their pocket. Why are there no better pictures?" And I'm thinking because they can mess with them.
Yeah.
Patterson got 16 seconds of a Bigfoot only fan swinging her giant jugs around, and and he's considered a fraud because he got an actual good picture. There's a reason for it. It's frustrating. Could it be what's his name, Paul Neomicus, whatever his name is? It could be, but if not, it's a Sasquatch, and it's because he had a spring-loaded camera from a Cracker Jack box.
Yeah, as soon as I seen very first time I seen that photo, I knew it, or that video, I knew it automatically. That was a real Sasquatch. You could see its muscles and its legs and its back. Mm-hmm. It's got the typical whenever Sasquatch get nervous and whatnot. And I think primates do the same thing. Their back hair stands up, and that's exactly what hers did. And I heard other people say the same thing, and I was like, I told my wife, I said, that's what I said when I seen this thing. It looked like a nervousness, the way the hair stands up on the back, muscle movements, and the fact that it had boobs. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like, why would you make a suit, or how would you make a suit with muscle movement, and why would you make one with boobs on it?
And if you do, you got more problems than just making a Sasquatch suit, because that means you're a real pervert. Because those are like, wow, that's.
And even if somebody was to make a Sasquatch suit with boobs, they're going to be up. They're not going to hang down like
these are like National Geographic Tropical Island kind of.
Yeah, and it says she hasn't been wearing a bra, and then naturally they're going to settle down. So.
Yeah, that's when that hit me, like it's literally the same story as Nope Patterson is.
Yep.
It's not very far. That's frustrating, but the fact that it's actual hypothesis in a sense is kind of makes me feel kind of optimistic about it. I just wish that modern science could somehow study that instead of saying, well, that's obviously not possible.
Yeah.
I mean, you got CERN over there who says that monkey can't no clip. What?
Yeah.
It's not too far off.
Yeah, another thing that like frustrates me in the documenting Sasquatch and other people documenting Sasquatch and even getting Sasquatch on video or camera or picture or whatever. If you get a picture of a Sasquatch and it looks really good, it's fake. If you get one and it's kind of pretty blurry. It's just kind of a black shape to it, and it's kind of blurry. They get pissed off because it's blurry. So you got a no-win situation. I've been told that I faked a lot of my shit, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? I do not absolutely fake nothing. Everything that I have on my channel, my Instagram, everything I have is 100% real. Boots on the ground, investigating, risking my ass and my life. I carry a big 10 millimeter on my chest,
Mhm.
and everything's
Is it hidden?
documented.
Can they see it?
Oh yeah,
Can they
yeah.
see?
That's
Can it?
that's another thing I tell people too, because there's a lot of people
Mhm.
who will try to say, "Oh, if you walk out there with a gun, you will never find a Sasquatch. They will never show them. They will never come around. They will never make
Mhm.
noises." And stuff.
I've heard rifles make them not come around, but pistols don't.
Uh, that is completely false. I've been
Oh,
out there
really?
with a shotgun on my back. I've been out there with an AR on my back and a pistol, and I still had interaction. Those Sasquatch know your heart. They know if you're
Yeah.
bad or you even have an intention or you're skittish in that way that you're just going to whip this thing out and start firing in the brush.
Now, you must have good Sasquatch social credit score. They must know you pretty well.
Wherever I go, and I go into new areas, and the same thing. I've got a 10 millimeter sticking out of my chest. It's like the first thing you see, and I'll either get one on. I'll get a picture of one peeking. I'll get wood knocks. I'll get vocals, whatever, and it doesn't matter. They know your intentions, and I try telling
Mhm.
people that if you go out there and you have any kind of an intention in the back here somewhere, they're going to know about it. And if you are carrying a gun and you may be a little on the skittish side, and they feel like you may be one of them that starts popping into the
Yeah.
brush because they it scared you so bad, they're not going to deal with you. They're not going to make noises. They're going to be there watching you. You're not going to know about it.
Wild trees. Was it Randy that told us that? He said that Doug Highcheck told him if he started carrying his revolver instead of a rifle, he'd have more sightings.
Yeah, that sounds similar to something he said. Yeah.
Because he was
I'm
carrying
seeing
carrying a judge.
I'm seeing a real I see a real contradiction, and I'm not saying that it's a problem. I'm just saying it's a contradiction. I'm trying to make peace with it. It's like these Bigfoot are like so intelligent, and they have all these crazy techniques to avoid detection, drain our batteries temporarily and everything. But at the same time, they're just like animals that love peanut butter, and just live in the woods like a regular ape would. That seems like a contradiction to me, and I'm trying to make some peace with it. Like,
I love the peanut
yeah.
butter thing, by the way. I love it. Why does everybody go straight to peanut butter? But yeah, that's frustrating because they're like a monkey in some of their ways, and other ways they're like an extraterrestrial. It's like they're best of both worlds. Like they evolved in some weird, crazy direction that we can't fathom.
Yeah, I hear I hear people say that Sasquatch is autistic. They got autistic traits, stuff like
Yeah,
that. And I totally disagree with that. I totally disagree with that fact. That's not true. That's a human conception because of the way they act. You see, the Sasquatch, they don't have a government. They don't have world leader threats. They don't have, they're not worried about being under attack by their own kind in that way. They live free and clear into those woods, free spirited, pure uh, uh, beings out there in those woods. And the way we are towards each other, how mean, how destructive, how warlike, suicidal, just awful. On a daily basis, I could walk out here and I'd just be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And they look at me like, "What the f did you just say to me?" you know. And it's just like, "Holy shit, dude!" It's just because I'm one of the nicest guys you'll meet.
hmm
I'm a really good person, and these people are just so mean. And there's a reason why a lot of these creatures dislike humans. They know we are very violent, warlike, suicidal, destructive beings. And I think our DNA has something to do with those guys. Something happened in the past. something happened that we came about. We didn't come about evolutionary. Come from a monkey, and I don't believe that for crap. You know what I mean? There's just no
Mhm.
way. Because why does the Sasquatch show so many traits of humans? They have a language. They have 5 fingers, a hand, dermal ridges. They've got arms. They're longer than ours. They've got a torso. They look just like us. They've got genitals just like us. Their feet are just like ours. And even the Sasquatch I've seen in the past, a lot of them look like a damn human that has a
Yeah,
lot of hair.
everyone says that about the face.
Yeah, and some of them look like they were a little more on the, even though they're not, a little more on the ape gorilla side,
Hmm.
but not. You know what I mean? They don't have that DNA,
It's
but a
funny
lot of
because
them.
I was just going to mention if you know Alon, I forget what his last name starts with an S, from Phantoms and Monsters. Um, he said he had his own big close up Bigfoot sighting, and he said he was like, look, to me it looked like a Neanderthal. Like he
Oh,
considers it a Bigfoot. He puts it in the Bigfoot category, but he's like, really, it looked more just like a Neanderthal, like an early, large, bulked up human, like a primitive human, not like an ape, more like a yeah.
well, it's funny you say that because in this area, in any area, the Sasquatch all look different. The ones up
Hmm.
here look like little silverback gorillas. They're not very
Hmm.
tall, but they
Okay.
look more man.
Really?
The ones right over here, up by Hermit, they are more human-like, but not so much on the ape-looking side. But very long hair, dreadlocked, and they've been
Mm.
seen right out in front of my place here. There's two sightings. I seen one of my neighbors seen one right about 50 yards in front of our place. And then you go up Storm Mountain. Those guys look like straight up Neanderthals. The one I seen up there,
Mm.
it reminded me of a depiction of a picture depicting a Neanderthal, just protruding forehead, just you know what I
Got
mean.
the part
He
here.
was all
Yeah.
he was all hairy like a Sasquatch,
Yeah.
and right up there at Storm is the only spot I've ever seen, and I've had other people report the same thing. It looked like a Neanderthal, and they sent me pictures, and I looked at it, and I was like, yeah, it's hard to make out the face, but you can see it's got a real Neanderthal look to it.
Mm.
Do any act more careless than the rest? Maybe they're
Yep.
different species, or like maybe
Yeah.
the Neanderthal ones can do more. And I don't know.
I haven't
I don't want to say
investigated.
dumber or any dumber than the rest. Maybe
No,
I don't want to say that.
I think they're all pretty much on the same level because those Neanderthal looking Sasquatch make these same structures as, say, all the way in southern Colorado at Pagosa Springs. The same structures as those guys, and those guys, I've seen some Sasquatch down there that look like straight up Native Americans with gray skin. All hairy here, nothing here. And they make anywhere in the world the Yowie, Yeti, all these different Sasquatch across the world, they seem to all make the same kind of structures. That is odd as hell to me. Like, are they communicating somehow? Or they all have the same basic
Have you noticed
visual?
that the structures follow a path like by the river? We've heard that before.
Sometimes I'll find bends. Bends are usually always by water. They're always pointing at water. Whether it be a spring, a
Mhm.
lake. If you find a lake and it is heavily forested around it, you'll find a million bends pointing right at the water. It's almost like signifying, oh, there's a lot of water, so come along, and they make a bend and stick the tip in the ground. And I can go on for years about structures and how the different kinds that I've seen built and
Mhm.
how they're just a visual language. They're saying something to one another or something else out there in those woods.
So you think the structures are actually you think that's actually a legit part of the study of them?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And
Okay.
a lot of people just that goes over their head. Oh no, they're just dumb apes. They don't have a language. They don't have they don't have a visual language such as making stick structures. And I've noticed a lot of those little teepee type structures
Mhm.
are right by game trails. So are they high? Are they using those like a man would use a hunting blind, and they
Hmm.
reach out and grab a deer and take
Hmm.
and rip its neck back and break it, break their legs?
Yeah.
Uh,
Interesting. That's a really good observation.
yeah, I do. I really do some serious research out there, and I look at all this stuff, and I've noticed the breaks when there's a break and you're finding a break, it's a couple of feet high to 6 foot tall. I've noticed because Sasquatch, when they walk out there in those woods, they cannot help but break shit. They're always
Okay.
breaking and swinging their hands and snapping twigs. They'll take small trees and snap them. So if that if that break is broken, say like, well, let's see, like this, he's headed that way, and the top of the
Hmm.
tree is down here. Because as he's walking by, he takes it, snaps that down like that. He continues walking. He's taking another one and breaking it. They've got a really bad habit, and that's one of the reasons why I can track those guys so well, along with their footprints,
Hmm.
along with their structures.
Hmm.
Just up Granby, I tracked me with my niece. She's never heard of Sasquatch. She never seen one. I showed her how to track. And all I needed to do is find my first little piece of evidence. And I found a small tree this big around that had been snapped completely off, and the top of it was completely gone. And I told her, I said, there you go. That's the first evidence. I went from there. We walked 2 miles in, and I found this huge nest made out of trees. It's been laid down, and the limbs off the trees made into this nice little nest. And then to the side, a big limb was snapped, making a corridor for a quick getaway. Around this side, it's impossible to get into it. We played hell getting into that. And on our way up, forgot to mention, before we got to the nest, oh, they started whooping and making primate type sounds. And she said, it sounds like there's monkeys in the woods. And I said, well, yeah, that's kind of what they sound like. All the hollering, and
Hmm.
it just sounds like gorillas or
Hmm.
something back there.
Do you think they sit in those nests like in the invisibility realm when they're invisible? That's why we don't ever see them in there.
No, I don't think so. Being a parallel universe,
Yeah,
parallel to ours, my mother, before I even seen a Sasquatch, always told me that Sasquatch
yeah.
do these things. And as the years went by, and I've seen Sasquatch disappear in front of me. They didn't really disappear, but it's like they unzipped reality and went into this pocket. I don't
Hmm.
get it. I don't even know. It's like they went, oh, there he is. They made a quick jerking motion. It's like they unzipped reality, and I don't know. It's the weirdest
Yeah.
goddamn thing I've ever seen in my life. And each
Damn.
one of them did that kind of thing. They just kind of feathered off into nothing. And
That's crazy.
yeah,
I-
I haven't told many people about it. There's a lot of people that just don't think they think
Hey,
they're done.
we're all for it here. Like I told you, I'm all for that. I want that. Like that's more optimistic than they're a monkey we can't find. That makes more sense.
Yeah, and they're far from a monkey. I mean, even their hand structure. I've seen their hands, and see how my thumb, and see how I got this section of thumb that comes out right here.
Hmm.
Yep.
The Sasquatch, it seems like they don't have that. Like their thumb is like growing. I don't know, like
Hmm.
something like that. Like they don't have that
Hmm.
piece of meat right there.
Right.
They've got this little thumb that's kind of just sticks out. It sticks out on. Am I making sense on that?
Yeah. Of
Yeah,
course. Yeah.
And I think it's because maybe they use their hands like this for grabbing trees and,
Yeah.
and lifting and whatnot. They don't use that thumb a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of, I mean, if you ever look at primate hands, like a boreal or tree living primates, if you just look at their handprints, they look pretty much exactly. They're longer, they're a little bit longer, but yeah, they're a lot like what you described, and it is for the reason you said. It is for grabbing tree branches and climbing, basically.
Yeah, they don't seem like they they use it to do too much of this. It's always like that. And don't get me wrong, I have seen Sasquatch. It's got a hand similar to mine. They do have a meatier part right here that kind of sticks out. But the majority of them, it's just like a little sliver that sticks out, and that's their thumb. So it's kind of odd. But what was I getting at here? I just lost my train of thought.
Well, I had a question.
You can go ahead.
I was gonna ask you. Maybe it'll come to you. But yeah, I want to kind of take advantage of all your experience. So you mentioned something earlier about like, something you've learned from your studies is that a way to track them is by looking at them breaking the branches, and you could even tell what direction they're going. That's a way to tracking them, and you understand why. So this is like a truth you learned about them. What are the other truths you learned? What are the other things that were new to you, but now you know them to be true about these animals? What's a list of these things that we should all know?
As far as like what they do, like outside of I know they
anything about them, really, anything about their nature.
Well, I know they build structures.
You said that they build structures? Okay.
Yeah, they build structures, and typically when they're moving through an area, sometimes they'll take and lay out a path. Okay, they'll usually kind of. It seems like to me they usually will groom a path. Like you could plainly see this game trail, but it looks like it's been groomed. And a lot of times, what I noticed, they'll take small sapling logs and they'll line the edge of the trail for a certain amount of distance, and then it'll stop, and then the trail will continue. And that's one weird thing that I've seen them do. And I kind of maybe put two and two together when they did something like that. I kind of figured maybe they're trying to tell others that this is a safe path of travel. You're not going to be seen. You're safe. This is a good spot by leaving that.
Yeah,
and
it's possible. Makes sense.
Yeah,
seems to be a big deal for them.
And the places I've seen that type of activity where they've laid logs down end over end along the side of a game trail or a trail that they're using, game and them used, is those spots that I found them in that have those logs laid like that on the side of the trail are a pretty remote spot. Nobody goes there except somebody like me that's crazy and has a purpose to go out there. Because up here there's a lot of tourists, but I'm telling you, not a single tourist leaves the trail. They have a mission. They want to go to the end of that trail, to the top of that peak. That's it. They do not ever bother leaving trail. Number one, they're afraid that we sell air canisters in the store up here. They're little portable air canisters because the air is so thin you could pass out or have a heart attack or a stroke.
What is the elevation up there?
Where I'm at right now, where my house is at, is like 8,100 feet.
Jesus.
Oh wow.
It's like 2 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So we sell up here in the stores. It's funny, a lot of tourists are like, what the hell? There's air canisters? And there's mint flavored and all these different flavored air canisters up here. And the tourists buy them, and when they take off up into these mountains, even higher than 8,000 elevation, you'll if you're not used to it like I am, born in this country, even I get sometimes a little bit dizzy when I'm up at about 12,000, 11,000 feet.
I bet that's just physics.
Yeah, I'll just go out, take a really.
That reminds me of this one time I was in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. I was doing my master's work, and I was at this research station. And so I was having a hard time, so I bought that canned oxygen. And I remember we went to a cabin with some other students. It was like me and these 3 other girls, and we're all playing Clue together. And I'm just taking hits of oxygen every now and then. And one of the girls was like, "Oh wow, it's like you're just taking your hits there." And I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, like every few minutes, I just took a big old hit of oxygen while I was playing Clue.
Yeah. if you go back and you watch my videos, documenting all my evidence, I've got really good stuff on there. You'll notice half the time I am breathing hard, and it's because you're not getting air. It's just the air is so thin up here, and you're just, goddamn, can't catch your breath up here, And go ahead.
I was gonna say another observation that about that thing. That's something to keep in mind if you're going to be doing any field research or hiking. Keep in mind with the elevation will definitely affect you. You're going to have to drink a lot more water. You're going to go to the bathroom more often. It's going to take you a while to get acclimated. You may never get acclimated. You might have to leave. But I remember one of the benefits of being in, I was also about 8,000 to 11,000 feet for 10 days doing research in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. One awesome benefit for me was that I think this is what was happening. I was moving a lot. There was not that much oxygen available to my lungs because of the altitude. I remember that it totally got rid of all my anxiety, depression, any negative feelings. The reason was because I could only have one thought in my head at any time. I simply did not have enough oxygen to entertain more thoughts than one thought. And it was awesome. It was beautiful. I was like, wow, my mind is quiet. I literally am just thinking one thing. I'm like, here I am. There's a plant. I'm hungry, and it was great. It was really cool.
Yeah. One thing, now that we're talking about elevation and everything, there's one thing I try to really stress to people, and a lot of people just, I don't know, they don't get it. The Sasquatch up in this area are small. Up on the eastern side of the central and eastern side of the United States, they're monster Sasquatch. They're 24-inch prints. Big, I say cavemanish type foots, real wide, big, nasty looking footprints, right? They've been reported to reach 10 feet and above in that part of the country. Up here at this elevation, up here in these Rockies, there's been some big ones come through. That's like a 10% chance of them being that big. Finding a real big print. You're lucky to find a 19 or 20 inch up here footprint. I mean, that's kind of out of range. The biggest print I found, and all the footprints that I've seen, and all the castings, and all these impressions of footprints that I've seen, the biggest one was probably about 16 inches long, and it was up here at Wellington. And all the Sasquatch that I've actually seen, and that I've got pictures of, or I've got them on video. I've got some really good Sasquatch on video. Unfortunately, Google came in and deleted 7 videos that have really good video evidence. That's another story. Oh my God, I emailed them. I was so pissed. Unfortunately, I did not have a copy of that video, which is okay because I can get more. But
conspiracy time there.
Yeah, but they're all small. 4 foot, 5 foot, my height. There's a comparison photo of a Sasquatch that I got right up here at Long Peak. It was on video. I panned around. I was scared out of my mind. For some reason, I don't get scared out here. I'll fight a damn bear. You know what I mean? And I don't get scared of these things, and I don't get scared of the wildlife. The moose make me nervous. But anyways, I've got an incredible amount of fear. And I'm looking at this structure, and then I pan around and I look at this brand new structure. It was obvious it was just made. It was like a house teepee thing leaning up, kind of coming down, kind of on the small side. And then I look up into the trees, and I pointed my camera right at him, and he's peeking out from behind some aspen trees looking at me. And I said, oh, my God. I said, I've got to leave that way. And I built up the nerve and the balls. Okay, well, I'm going to walk right towards him and to the right of him. And that's exactly what I did. My heart was losing its mind, and I felt like I was going to have a heart attack because that thing's standing there, and that's how I have to exit. I can't go anywhere else. I got to exit right there. And as I'm walking by, I keep panning that camera around towards him. And then at one point, I panned around, and he's gone. Just like the wind. No noise. Gone. And I was like, oh God, okay, I'm gonna get out of here. I shut the camera off and I hightailed it out. because of the amount of fear that I was under. He was portraying to me that he really didn't want me there at all.
Wow.
And I actually got the comparison photo here if you guys want to
Yeah.
see it. It's pretty cool. I actually went back up there with my brother-in-law and my niece, and they got this comparison photo. See me, and then there's the Sasquatch on the one side,
Let me see.
and he's
Was
just
that
smaller.
okay? I see.
Yeah, I got it.
And the
Wow.
Sasquatch is over here, and that's me standing there.
Hmm.
And if you could actually see the picture up close on your phone, you could see its nose, and you could see its forehead and whatnot. And uh, he looks like he was. I know he was real skinny. It looked like he was even skinnier than me almost. And but that was something else that day. That was just this last summer in the spring.
That's intense. Like is it the do they do the zip when they disappear every time, or can they just instantly do it?
Um, I'm not sure. I
I'm
mean, the
asking
ones.
you like you're a scientist that studied him. I'm just
Well, the ones that I've seen that actually have disappeared, kind of, and went into this pocket. I think maybe they can maybe instantly go into this other. Um, oh, I've seen these Sasquatch, and I've heard about this before, but I have actually witnessed these Sasquatch. Sorry, this just came to mind. I had to mention this. Um,
bro.
I've seen these Sasquatch, and I think the reason why they're so quiet is somehow they run on a bed of energy or something because their legs are hauling ass like they should be doing 100 miles an hour, but they're moving through the forest fairly slowly. Like, what's with that? With no noise. I've seen them do that like in Pagosa, New Mexico, and Missouri. When I was in Missouri, when I seen that one in Missouri, it was doing that.
So
Legs
their
were just,
legs are like they're running, but they're not moving very fast.
yeah, just like that. Their legs are just blurred out, running like this, but their body is moving fairly slow. That's odd, and no sound
Have you ever
at
seen
all.
them come from an orb or anything? Materialize from
No,
an
but
orb? We've heard that.
I have never seen one come from an orb. I've seen orbs in locations where Sasquatch are present. I have a theory about that. I think those orbs, okay, when a ghost or a Sasquatch or anything that can manipulate the energy around it, I think it manifests these little orbs of energy.
Hmm.
So when the Sasquatch, they can manipulate the energy around them to do the crazy things that they do that's over our understanding, and people don't believe it. They believe in Sasquatch, they don't believe they could do these. But whenever I notice, whenever there's an area with Sasquatch, and I know Sasquatch will manipulate energy for certain reasons, these orbs, I've seen these orbs before in the forest, and I think that whenever the energy is being manipulated, it generates these little orbs of energy. That's a theory. Maybe I could be right. Maybe I could not. Maybe I'm wrong. Nobody really knows.
Yeah, no one does. But the only thing I know is they exist.
Yeah,
Everybody sees the orbs. I don't know why. I don't know why we ignore it.
yeah,
Well, I don't ignore it. But I
yeah,
find that particular part fascinating. It's like a common
yeah,
technology that aliens and Bigfoot and ghosts all use.
yeah. It's really weird to think about. Like why? And the only thing my theory, like I said, is they manipulate the energy, and then when they do, those little balls of orbs start showing up.
What was it I thought was the byproduct? The white fingerprints that when they touch things. You ever experienced that one?
I know their skin is incredibly greasy. Like if they touch your like they've left handprints on my car. I've investigated windows that's had handprints on them, and if you were to go wipe a fingerprint off or something, it seems like it's almost hard to get off. You wipe it
Mhm.
off, it looks clean. You blow dust on it, there it is again. But
We've had a guy up in Minnesota who had one touch the side of his house. It looked like somebody spray painted a handprint. Couldn't get
yeah,
it off. Touched his game camera, did the same thing.
yeah, and that's kind of on the weird side of what they can do. If they could touch something and literally imprint their hand print, burn it or whatever into the side of a house or
hmm
any material, there's something going on there that they're manipulating something to allow them to do such a thing for whatever reason they did that for.
I said it reminded me of like a flash burn,
Yeah.
like a not a flash burn. What is it whenever a nuclear blast goes off and there's like a nuclear shadow? So it reminded me of
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
That almost kind of reminds me of the bends. I have a theory about the bends, about how they're made. Um, some of these trees are this big around and maybe even bigger, and somehow they get bent. And I'm not talking about they got bent from a sapling and grew to that stage. I've seen them where they have recently gotten bent and stuffed into the ground or put under another log. I think, okay, you got like people, I think in like India or whatever, they do this healing stuff, right? And they can lay their hands on you and it feels like 200-degree heat coming off their hands. It almost burns, of what I've heard. It'll almost burn your back or wherever they're working on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to take a tree that size and bend it and stick it in the ground or put it under a log to keep the tip down is to superheat it without it snapping. Because if you were to try it yourself, which I have on saplings, I've tried to bend them and it just, they snap every time. And, or they'll snap and leave a piece of bark or whatever, you know what I mean? These usually all the time are completely unsnapped and just nice. If you superheat wood like that, you can manipulate that wood into that shape. What if these
Yeah,
Sasquatch theory are superheating this wood with their hands like the India people do when they heal?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's the same kind of aspect, only superheat it and manipulate that wood to get it to bend without snapping the tree to make that bend.
I didn't know
yeah.
that about
That
wood.
sounds
Just learned that.
that sounds like with the somebody did a study on like crop circles, and they found that's what happens with crop circles. Like they were hypothesizing that maybe like some microwaves from space were being shot, but basically the reason why the corn is bent is like you said, it's basically through heat.
Heated,
That's how it bends without snapping. Yeah.
exactly. Their little nodes are blown out. Well, they're kind of
Mm.
blown out and not broken, but you know what
Hmm.
I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
it's the same
Exactly.
thing
Exactly.
with that wood. You can and the back in the day, like Vikings and all the guys that made boats, they have to
Hmm.
bend that wood to their will, so
Mm-hmm.
it's nicely shaped to make a boat. What do?
Hmm.
They superheat that wood, not by a direct fire to it, but they superheat it, whether it be in like a housing unit that's super hot inside there, and they can manipulate that wood and bend it, and then when the wood cools, it stays like that.
What do you think? Anything happens to the wood fiber or the cells that you could look under a microscope?
Uh,
Maybe see if they exploded. I mean,
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
think.
I think
that seems studyable.
that's how they figured it out for the crop circles. I think. Yeah, they
Oh,
just looked at it under a microscope. Yeah, they
listen
figured
to
out
me.
that's what was up.
That'd be interesting to
Hypothesis
go
over
up
here.
to actually go up to a bend and take a drill, one of those. What do they call them? That's a hollow drill, and you could take
Core sample.
a core sample. Yes,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and on one of the bends up at the upper location where it would bend or where it would usually break but didn't, that's where it would be superheated at in that section up there, and take a core sample, look at a microscope, and see if the cells and stuff have been manipulated. I don't know anybody that's actually done that, but that's actually a pretty good idea. That'd be kind of worth looking into. Why not?
Hey, Wild Trees can do
Yeah.
it. He's got access to all that stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. Let me ask you this real fast, though. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, and then I'll ask you.
I was going to ask you if you have a high-powered microscope.
He does.
Yeah, I mean, I have access to a scanning electron microscope, which is, that magnifies it incredibly. I don't know, thousands of times larger. But yeah, yes, I do.
I have some hair that I.
That's my next question.
I knew it.
That's my next.
I fucking knew it. You're too predictable.
Let me set it up. Well, let's talk about it, but let me set it up real fast, okay? We've talked to two, I think they're credible witnesses that cohabitate with Bigfoot, and they both say they have hair. And then when I propose my idea that I'm going to propose to you, they seem hesitant. Like they don't want to give me the hair. And I'm like, why don't you want to give me the hair? And, I don't want all their hair. I don't need a lot of it, but that's very odd. But so let me tell you what I told them. So as far as genetic testing, I'm a biologist, but I'm not a geneticist. And genetic testing, the last time I looked into it, it is kind of expensive. It involves a lot of different technologies and techniques, blah, 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 blah. What I'm trying to say is if I get Bigfoot hair, what I would do is I would magnify it with a scanning electron microscope. I would make it tens of thousands of times bigger than it actually is, because it turns out that you could identify hair of different species by their structure. And so I think that's more beneficial to do than to look at the genetics of it. Because what if it just happens they share the DNA with humans, and so the DNA just keeps coming back human? You're like, okay, that leads us nowhere. Yeah.
That's exactly the thing I was going to tell you. I have these hairs, but I found a couple of spots that would analyze them, but they wanted a lot of money. I don't make money off of researching these Sasquatch, and my organization, Project Sasquatch, it's solely an educational, scientific kind of thing, but I also look over science because you have to deal with Sasquatch. And I have these hairs, and I've been dying to get them analyzed. I highly believe they're Sasquatch because I don't know anything with that kind of hair that deep into the woods left on a structure. And
awesome.
I have these hairs, but I need somebody with a microscope to look, not genetic wise, because I know they've looked at Sasquatch hairs and they come back human. Of course, what is it? Mitochondrial DNA comes back as human, female. Nuclear DNA is male, which comes back completely unknown. And I've seen that study on that. And a lot of hairs that are submitted comes back as human, but they cannot tell you, because anytime you study if it's contaminated by human, and they can look at that DNA, and if it comes back human, they could tell you, oh, this is an individual that has Irish in them, that has German in them, that has Asian in them. They can't tell you that on this DNA. It comes back human, but they can't tell you that. And a lot of the time they sit there and say, oh, it's been contaminated by a human because it's coming back human. I was like, no, it's not contaminated. Right. That's just what the DNA is showing off of that creature. It's
That's
human.
Insane. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was happening. I thought they were coming back like possums or something.
No. And that's why I said earlier, there is a link between humans and Sasquatch. And, and I remember I was talking about that a little bit ago. It's because of that DNA. But I have these hairs. When you look at hairs, that's really, really, really credible, because the Sasquatch don't have a medulla. And the Sasquatch I believe are the only ones that have almost like a shell casing on the hair. There's like scales on it. There's crazy scales all up it with no medulla. And everything on this planet has a medulla in their hair. Anything with fur or hair has medulla in it of different sizes. The Sasquatch is completely translucent. But
we were talking here in a second.
Yeah, I was going to say real fast. I was going to say we have a biologist, a PhD biologist in a room, and we were talking about this medulla thing. So I think she's probably taking what you just said. Yeah, she's probably taking what you said and she's going to let us know what her research. Because she did some research into this medulla structure of hair thing. So Bobby, just put it up as soon as she says what it is. I'm sure she's going to comment.
Mindy up.
Yeah,
it was a huge. It was like 3 weeks of our conversations about. There she is. I knew it.
The medulla.
Oh God, why's my face so red? Well, laughing. That's creepy.
Not all hair has a medulla. Okay. Interesting.
I don't even know what a medulla is. I watched Waterboy. It's all I know about a medulla.
But the Sasquatch tends to have this casing on the hair. It's very weird, and maybe because I know the Sasquatch they'll actually cloak. They'll blend in and bend. I think they bend light with their hair.
I've heard that too. Yeah, I've heard it too.
That being translucent hair and having that casing, there's these scales on the hair. I think that might be used to like actually bend light. You understand what I'm saying? Kind of make them.
Yeah, I've heard it.
A lot of blonde hair does not.
More often find medulla and coarse thick hair.
That's interesting. I didn't think. I thought Sasquatch was the only one that didn't.
Imagine a flowing, locked blonde Sasquatch with perfect blown out hair.
All flowing in the wind while
I'm
it's
just
peeking at you.
sexy Sasquatch.
All you smell is suave.
Have you ever seen that Ice Age sequel about the giant pirate monkey? And he goes and sees the sirens, and there's and he sees like a siren. It's a beautiful monkey with giant 8 teeth. That's what I'm picturing. Oh, hey, how are you, Harry? That's just what I'm picturing. It's like a supermodel, but it's a Sasquatch.
All these blonde flowing locks.
Just Nordic with a chiseled hairy chin.
Oh,
Sasquatch got a modeling deal.
but I know if you find these hairs, like the hair I got looks like maybe a dark brownish. I don't think it's totally black. Now, if you take and look at that under a scope, and it doesn't have a medulla in it, and it has all the characteristics that I was actually talking about for like the Sasquatch hair. Oh, boom! There you go. I got Sasquatch hair, and the area that I found it at is active as hell with Sasquatch. I just don't see why it would come back not Sasquatch. You know,
So,
what I mean?
I don't know why nobody else would
with
give
the
us
hair?
hair samples.
Yeah, nobody wants to give up their hair. I don't know why. I'm like, yeah, no, like I said, it's weird. Yeah, they don't want to give it up, but I'm like, why?
We just want one hair.
The whole point is to like spread the message of Bigfoot being real. And I'm like, okay, let me look at this hair. They're like, I don't know. And on second
One guy
thought,
got mad about
maybe
it.
not.
One guy got mad about it. I'm like, why are you being so mad? They're my hair. Whoa.
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy if you could do it. Like I said, I don't have money. I mean, if you donate time towards the actual discovery of the species, but I got this hair.
Yeah, man, I won't.
Hair. I could send you.
I won't charge you anything.
That would be absolutely amazing. And if you could send me pictures of it, that would be amazing too. You know, if you could maybe message me somehow or something. But I could give your address and or not address, but like contact or some way I can send you this hair, and then you can analyze it and send me pictures of the analyzed hair. You know what I mean?
I'll just connect y'all on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you what I would do with it. See, at first I would get the hair, and I would look at it with what's called a compound microscope. You know, there's two main type of microscopes. There's a lot of microscopes, but you know, in your school, you usually saw a slide microscope. You know, which is it's the name implies you put a little thin slide there. That's good for really thin things. But if you have something more three-dimensional, like a hair, use a compound microscope. So the compound microscope, the benefits are that you could, shine light through it. So then I could see through it. I could see detail on it. But then I would use a scanning electron microscope. Now that's like the big hitter. That's a really powerful microscope, and that one uses a computer. So what would happen in that case is that the hair would first have to be dried out. Every time you use this type of scanning electron microscope I'm going to use, you have to dry out your sample. You can't have any moisture in it. So there's just a few things I do to the hair. I'll have to read up on it because I usually use it for insects and other animals. But anyway, I know you. See, the reason is I know you could use it with hair because I got my master's degree there, and I know that another girl or another student who was a girl, she did her master's thesis on hair of North American mammals. So what she did is she used the exact machine that I used to look at all the different mammals' hair under the microscope. Then she wrote a little book as her thesis that told you how to differentiate hairs from North American mammals based on how they looked like under a microscope. So that's how I got the idea. I was like, okay, well, if you could do it with a fox hair and a possum hair, raccoon hair, why wouldn't you be able to do it with another mammal? The way the machine works is you dehydrate your sample, like I said. Then it's very interesting. Actually, then what happens is the whole hair will get gold plated. Okay, so you actually feed this machine blocks of gold, like gold bars, and it'll like turn the gold into a dust, and then it'll cover whatever you're going to photograph with dust. It'll make it gold plated because then you put it into a chamber in the microscope, and what it does is it shoots electrons at it. So electrons are some of the smallest particles we have, like everything in the world is made of atoms, like atoms are on the periodic table. So you got gold is an atom, copper, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, titanium, uranium. So but those atoms, they're made of smaller things, like your neutrons, protons, and electrons. So electrons are one of these particles. So your sample is in this vacuum chamber. The machine starts shooting single electrons at it really quickly. Then the electrons will bounce off the gold-plated sample, and they'll shoot back at a receiver. And the receiver will take all these bounces, and it'll make a black and white, high definition, super detailed image. To give you an example of like how close you could get, like imagine a grain of pollen. So pollen is mostly invisible. I mean, sometimes you'll see it in the air, but that's just because there's a lot of grains of pollen. But yeah, pollen is microscopic. It's very tiny. Well, with this machine, when you magnify pollen, it almost looks like a planet you're looking at. Like you get so close, it looks like you could walk on top of that pollen. It looks like it's like a huge continent. That's how big you can make things with this machine. But yeah, what will happen then is I won't be able to see the inside with this microscope. What this does is it lets you see the outside. The structure of the hair from the outside, but that's okay because that has been proven to be a good way to tell different animals' hair apart. So yeah, and then I guess after that, if you want the hair back, you could have it. It'll be gold. It'll be gold-plated hair.
Maybe I could pawn it.
Gold-plated Sasquatch hair.
Sasquatch hair. 150.
Yeah.
Best I can do is $50.
No,
so the funny thing is this.
Yeah.
I was just going to say one last thing. The funny thing is that I'm going to go back to my university to use a microscope because I took a scanning electron microscope in college, and then afterwards the professor was like, "Look, you guys can use this whenever you want. That's part of taking the class you paid for. You passed. You get to use this microscope." But these are a bunch of biologists. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. I'll be like, "Hey, I want to use it for this other project," but I'm going to say, "Hey." I'm so sneaky. I'm a sneaky fox. I'm going to say, hey, I need to practice on it. It's been a while since I've used this one. I don't want to mess it up. So I brought some samples I could just play around with, including this hair. I'm not going to say where the hair came from. My story is I want to use this. I have privileges to use this machine, which is true. And I haven't used it in a long time, which is also true. And I need to train on it, which is also true. So I brought these other samples that are just random things I found, and I just want to practice on them. That way, nobody has to know what I'm doing. Nobody has to raise their eyebrows, call the police. Nobody has to do anything weird.
Well, a lot of the times, if you mention it's possible Sasquatch hair, thank you, gone. It's happened before. They'll come in, and if you think or you mention it could be possible Sasquatch hair, it disappears. So I was going to tell you when you do that, don't tell anybody it's Sasquatch hair. Just give them some other bullshit excuse, and
there you
look
go.
at it. And if you could, in the future, if you could analyze more hairs like this summer, I might find more hairs. So
how many do you have?
I think I've got three little batches of hair. They're all the same thing. They're all the same area. They're just small little batches of hair.
Is there any kind of
Um,
like, this will sound stupid, any kind of spiritual attachments to them? Not spiritual, but like, tend to no visitations in your backyard or anything when you have it?
No.
Not like
Oh.
not like you were saying about gifting, but
Okay, let me tell you. You just said something about that kind of brings to thought. It might be a tad off from what we're talking about, like hair, but I if I could use you, Wild Tree, if you wouldn't mind, if in the future if I could send you
Mhm.
hair to analyze it, because it's basically this is just for the discovery of this unknown creature, that nobody knows about.
Mhm.
And that would be absolutely freaking awesome. I would have a contact like that, and you would be able to see, yourself, and I would even let you keep if the hair comes back as Sasquatch. I'd even let you keep the hair because I would have more, and you could just put it
Okay.
away in your little
Yeah.
house, keep it with you. Whatever hair I sent you,
Yeah, and then
all I want is just your pictures of the hair and your results on what the hair, if it's unknown or whatever. Is basically all I
yeah,
want.
I'll basically treat it like you're sending it to a paid lab, even though you're not going to pay. So I think if you were to send it off to a paid lab, they would basically photograph it, send you the photographs, and then they would write a report. And then
Yeah.
that's what you'll get. You'll get all the photographs I take, and then I'll just summarize what my results were, and you'll just
Yeah,
have that document.
that'd be beautiful. And
Uh,
I'll send these off to you as soon as I can. As soon as you get with me on Facebook and message me an address where I can send this hair, I'll get it in an envelope wrapped up and get it to
okay.
you. So you could do it whenever you got time or whatever.
Okay.
hey, I
Well, yeah, I was going to
volunteer this
say.
podcast as tribute to for the big reveal.
Um,
I also just want to say, but preliminarily, right now, I will say, I really like to what is it called? Let me get this right. I like to under promise and over deliver. So from the time I get to here, let's give it a 1 year turnaround. It'll probably be less than that, but I just want to set expectations from the beginning because like I said, I have to go back to my university. I have to set up the story, but it is doable. But I'm saying a 1 year turnaround time. I just want to just set the expectation here now for that time. But I think it is doable within a year, for sure.
okay, yeah. I mean, whatever. I'll be here. I'll send you more hairs that I find, in the woods. Uh,
And
um,
the other thing is that would really be helpful. It's almost like it's almost necessary, like 100%. Is that each sample should have documentation. So with each sample, it'd be great. Like I said, almost necessary for this to be worth something. I would need the coordinates of where it was found, the dates of where it was found. It'd be super great if you could take pictures of the area before you pick it up. But definitely, I just at least need the person who collected it, which will probably be you. But if it's someone else, just let me know who it was, and the coordinates of where it was and the date. Now, I'm telling you this because this is what I do. Like I said, I'm a biologist. I work with insects. Every single insect in my collection that I've ever collected, every insect in a museum, it has at least this information. At the bare minimum, that insect has to have where it was collected, the more detailed possible, who collected it, and the date it was collected. So yeah.
I'm a little iffy on the location part, to be honest.
Hmm.
Um,
Interesting.
that there's
Well,
I
let me
let me
see.
put I've been attacked by the government before. I've had them come out
Hmm.
there, me and my nephews investigating, and they came out of freaking nowhere in a white SUV. A guy jumps out in a suit and tie, military man, armed to the tits, come out and start interrogating us, trying to scare us, and I got huffy right back. I said, they told me whatever they know what I'm doing out here, and that I need to stop what I'm doing right now
Wow.
and just go home. And I told him, I said, you ain't got no effing right to tell me what I can and can't do. And they said, well, if you value your family, I said, you touch my family, you will get shot. I have a more guns. I can arm a small country. and he go proceed. You know, he gets kind of huffy and I said, you ain't doing shit, dude. You know, I said, you know, if you want to,
Yeah.
you know what I'm doing. I said, if you want to learn from my experience, then okay, but don't sit here and threaten me. And then up here at Johnny's Park area, I had a drone, huge. It had to have been a $50,000 or $100,000 drone, huge drone.
Mm.
Really?
And I've heard it, and I was way up on the mountain, and I was because we try to keep radio contact. And she said, "What is that sound?" And I said, "I don't know. Is that a motorcycle?" I said, "What the hell's a motorcycle doing out here? You can't get a motorcycle out here." And and then right when I said that, right above the trees, I was standing kind of in a clearing area, there's some rock, and there it comes, right above the trees, sitting there, staring at me, and it had a big bulb camera on the bottom of it with big old feet coming off of it. And I
It's
told
like a military drone,
that's what I thought. It was all black, and I
especially
told
with
Kim,
that bulb on it.
yeah, I told Kimmy, I said, well, there's a drone sitting here staring at me. I said, I'm probably going to go ahead and head back down to the truck. And so I looked at it again, and its little bulb and a little camera. I could see it moving, watching me walk away. Got down to the truck. I'm heading back down the mountain. And as I go down the mountain, there's mountain, road, mountain, and it drops off several hundred feet down to the valley floor. And absolutely no noise. You can't fit a helicopter down there. This helicopter comes up beside me where it drops down, raises up, and there's this guy in desert looking fatigues with it hanging on like this, 1 foot on the railing of the foot of the helicopter, hanging out, looking at me, and I could have spit on him. That's how close they were. And they came to a hover and were sitting there watching me as we drove away. And my wife said, "What the F?" And I said, well, if that's not a dead giveaway that I'm onto something, I don't know what the hell it is.
Wow.
And I just proceeded to drive away. And when I rounded the corner and came back around the corner to where I could see back this way, gone. No noise, gone.
Like an actual helicopter?
Yeah, a black military helicopter.
Wow.
No numbers, with a man out the side, hanging on to on the rails on the outside on the door, with 1 foot on, with his left foot on the foot, the railing of the helicopter on the bottom, with 1 foot on that and one knee up on the floor, hanging out, looking at me. And he was dressed in like a desert fatigue, including his little military hat. And I could see his facial features. It was a white man, and like I said, he was close enough. I probably could have spit on him. I definitely could have thrown a rock at him and hit him easy. And they sat there at a hover while he was staring at me like that. And I went down around the corner, and as I came back around this way, I could see back at that spot. And we looked. I slowed way down, and I'm hanging my head out the window. There isn't a helicopter in sight. It made no noise. The only time it made noise is when it came up. You know, and there was wind and that. And that was it.
Those aren't exactly silent.
No.
What branch of the military or the government was the guys in the woods you were saying that you ran into? Like park rangers?
I don't know.
Army?
I don't know what branch. They didn't have any decorations on. The guys in the white SUV with the guy in the suit and tie that jumped out, all nice, clean cut, corporate looking asshole, just suit and tie. They were also in desert style fatigues, only they had an AR and they had, you know, a gun on their hip.
So you had a guy with a suit pop out? I must have missed when you said that.
Yeah, and he was the one that was kind of
that's creepy than anything.
Yeah, and telling me, if I know it's good for me, I'm going to stop what I'm doing right now, which I was investigating Sasquatch. We were having a little bit of evidence and wood knocks going on when that happened. And when we were coming back down to the road, there he is sitting there. And he jumped out along with two other military guys, and they were all armed, and they had, all three of them had black glasses on, but there was no identifying markers if they were U.S. Army, military, Navy, whatever. But they had the desert style fatigue, the same thing as that guy in that helicopter over here. Only the guy in the black suit, that was clear down by Archuleta Mesa on the border of Colorado and New Mexico. And what I find interesting there's an underground UFO base there in Archuleta Mesa. They call it Nightmare Hall.
I've heard about that Mesa before.
Yeah. Dall Sea, New Mexico sits right on the other side of that. So that was on the west side of that mesa down in there, investigating Sasquatch, investigating a sighting from a tourist, a tourist couple that had witnessed some kind of dinosaur raptor-looking thing running right past them across the trail. So we were looking into all of this, and those guys showed up. And when we got in our truck, in my nephew's truck, and took off, and there was not a sight of those guys in the white vehicle. They were gone. Like they just poof. They're just gone.
There wasn't a chance that you crossed over onto the base property, did you? Would it?
Oh, maybe. There's no warning signs. There was no private property signs. There was nothing.
Well, there would have been if you had. So I was going to say maybe that'd be the only thing that would be the Occam's razor, the whole thing for me. But if not,
as far as I know, it was just it was National Forest. San Juan. No, I don't think it was San Juan, but it was. I thought it was National Forest. There was no sign saying any otherwise.
So do you think the government knows something about the Sasquatch? I mean, they have records. Yeah. I know the Smithsonian used to have some kind of record, but I can't think off the top of my head what it was.
Yeah, 100% the government has. I've seen some stories of the government confiscating Sasquatch bodies. One of them was from Mount St. Helens when it blew up. Back in the day, when the Mount St. Helens blew up, there was Sasquatch bodies that were confiscated.
I wonder why they don't want us to know about those. That seems like something weird to cover up.
Well, they're gonna the government, the dark government, they're gonna cover up anything outside of wake up, go to work, make this money, this paper note by the government, make money, get off work, go home,
spend money,
pay your bills, eat shit and drink and shower, pay more bills. Anything outside of that control measure, they don't want you to know a damn thing about it. They will kill you and stuff for knowing such things outside of that. Because if you know and you've seen things like that and you know about things like that, guess what? Your reality just got shattered and your consciousness just went up tenfold, man. Boom. And now you're more at peace with your body, your mind and soul, and others. They don't want that. They don't want that kind of thing. They want
that higher vibration.
They want
you always talk about.
Yeah. They want you like this, at each other's throats. Money, money, money. Blah, blah, blah. Anything outside of that, they don't want you because they wouldn't have that control over you if you were to be enlightened in such a way.
Yeah, man. I stopped watching news in 2020 for obvious reasons, early 2020, and my life has changed a lot since then. Like my view of stuff, I'm like, that's bullshit. I'll see stuff like that's not real. Why do you want us to know that? Why would you tell us that? That's stupid.
Yeah, my whole life. I mean, most of the time we didn't even have TV because I grew up in a homestead log cabin with a dirt floor. We just moved into this cabin, and it was homestead and had the original stove. And my dad put roofing on, metal roofing, so it won't leak on us. But my whole life we've never watched the news. I've caught glimpses here and there, and I can't watch that shit, man. It's all fake.
It comes on when I'm at my in-laws' house and I watch it. I'm like, this stuff is meant to drag your ass down. No wonder everybody's mad all the time. Yeah, it just makes you feel sad. I'm like, turn this off.
It's meant to scare the shit out of you. It's meant to scare the shit out of you. It's a control measure.
Whenever I hear a topic on the news or a topic that I want to know about, I'll just go kind of see both sides and see what the narrative is on whoever's pushing it. Mm-hmm. I'll look at that, and I try not to take the bait on things, because when I feel myself taking the bait, I'm like, okay, stop. You're taking the bait. Back up and see why they want you to know this.
Yeah, exactly.
Hang on,
interesting.
Now that we've scared the hell out of each other. You told I'm looking around. I'm checking my magazines to make sure they're full and one in the pipe over here.
Oh yeah, I've got an AK-47 right behind me, and an AR-10 and an AR-15 and whatnot.
I have a Ninja Turtle, so that's all the home defense I need.
Oh, I got an attack corgi. He's only about 12 inches tall.
You have an assault corgi. We got two more things I want to talk about. I don't know what your time limit is, but I don't want to stop, to be honest. But this is I know it's getting late in the mountains. Yeah, but, I mean, whenever I hear somebody that has this kind of opinion about this, I have to hear it because there's only a couple people.
I also have one more. Oh, go ahead, Bobby. I'll go after you.
No, that's it. I was going to say outside of a couple people, the rest of them are kind of woo-woo crystal people.
Okay, so I was going to say, I also have one more question, and I just want to just for right now to wrap up the hair thing. I guess what I'll say is that we're going to have to go about this. I'm willing to make concessions. I understand you don't want to give the area. This is a special case. It's not a regular kind of project. And I guess I'll just end it by saying that it's going to be a little more complicated than just planning a fishing trip together because of some of the stories you've told. And I'm aware of that too. I don't want to say any more, but I'll just say we're going to have to take special considerations when we're going about this project. That's all.
Does it mean we can't talk about it and reveal the stuff on here, like Maury?
I think we're gonna have to take it one step at a time, and I don't know yet.
I was ready to do "You Are the Father" reveal on this sucker. You have? That's Sasquatch. Let me ask you. Let me take a left turn right now. A long time ago, me and you were talking, Zeus, and you said you saw a lizard person. I want to hear that. You don't have to go long on it. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about that.
It's not. It's actually not a long story.
Okay.
It doesn't have.
Okay.
It was kind of a brief sighting. I seen him plain as day. I was investigating what's it called? Yellow Jacket. Yeah, Yellow Jacket, outside of Pagosa Springs, and I was investigating an area up there, and I'd come up and over investigating Sasquatch. Like I say, I see other shit out here than Sasquatch, while I'm investigating Sasquatch. I don't know what they are. They're strange. It's different things, different creatures and beings. I don't even know. Anyway, I was walking up the side of this mountain. On the top, there's a fire lookout tower. And I got to the top of that. I got to the top where that tower is. You're not allowed to go up to the tower, government, property type shit. And so I stood next to the fence. I glassed around a little bit. I'm looking around. I'm trying to find some evidence. It's all I need is the first piece of evidence. I could track them. I could start finding their areas. So I headed back down the other side of that. And it got kind of thick with trees and some bushes and stuff like that. And it sounds kind of funny, but I walked down in there and I'm looking around and I looked over, and for some reason I thought it was a strange little tree or something, a little green tree. I don't know I don't know why I thought that, like it was almost like a tropical tree, fairly short, my height maybe. Well, I'm 6'3", I'm not that short in terms, but so I don't know why I thought that, but when I looked at it, I guess it was because of the little spikes, like little spiky scales that had on top of its head. And but anyways, when I looked over, that's a first impression was like it was this weird little tree. But then I looked at it, and it was a lizard looking guy standing on 2 feet, probably up. The bushes were up probably almost to his pecs. It didn't have boobs. I don't know if lizard people have boobs or not, but because I know they exist. I've heard many stories. I've seen some videos and stuff, but that was the first time I've ever seen something like that. And he was looking right at me, black eyes, his scaly skin on the outside. I see some muscle tone. He was standing like a man would, and his face protruded out a little bit, kind of like a snake maybe. And he had these like, little spikes on the top of his head that went all the way down. It looked like probably down his back. And the front of him is like starting at the bottom of his chin. Underneath here was like khaki colored, like the color of khakis, kind of that color, a light color. And when he looked over at me, because that's what caught me, is he looked over at me like this, and I was looking right at him, and my heart jumped. I was like, "What in the heck am I looking at?"
Imagine.
And he goes like this. He goes like this in this strange motion. It blocked his face, and he went behind the bushes, all slow. But the way he did that, he was like this, blocking
It's
his
like an
face.
effeminate lizard man. You don't see me.
And it was in the inside of his palm. It looked like it was the color like of my palm, or maybe a white guy's palm. It had no scales. It was all smooth. And
So his head was green and he was khaki here?
Yeah, it was like a light green-ish color. Maybe there was a little bit of yellow from the top part of his mouth, kind of up. Big old black eyes, kind of a snake-looking head, but a neck like a human, a body like a human. And it was all scaly. I could plainly see it was all little scales, and then the inside coming down to the under part of his arm like this was all that light khaki color. And then he went like that and blocked his face and just slowly ducked down behind these bushes. And I said, "Nope," and I took off the other direction.
Oh, so he didn't get a chance to disappear. He just left.
I left. Well, he disappeared behind the bushes, and that's the first thing like that I've ever seen. And I see wild shit out there all the time, but that right there was a confirmation as far as these lizard people go. I don't know where he came from, what he was doing. There wasn't any animals in the area to my knowledge, but yeah,
That's insane.
ducked down behind those bushes, and I said, "No."
Well, like when he ducked down, did he disappear just because the bush was there, or disappear like out of existence?
No, he disappeared because of the bushes.
Okay.
He took off somewhere on all fours, like Sasquatch do. Sasquatch will get on all fours to get low and below sight and take off, so you don't see him.
I ain't about a lizard person on all fours. Hell no. That's why they invented 12-gauge pumps.
And it's funny because I have not been back to that area since I've seen that.
I wouldn't go back. Hell no. That's a different story. That's either like some other sinister thing coming through a Bigfoot's portal or the government, and neither one's cool. or a demon. You never know.
Yeah. Well, it was definitely a flesh and blood creature standing there.
I mean, was the top of his hand green?
I don't know. I couldn't tell.
Or he just did
went like this, and I could see khaki color right in here, like a khaki color on this part of his arm. But when he did that, he went like that, and that's all I see is a smooth hand. It looked smooth, no scales.
You ever seen the bottom of the Patterson footage? Bottom of their feet.
Have I ever seen the bottom of the Sasquatch foot? Hell yeah, I have.
I mean, the Patterson footage foot. Is it? That's because it looks like you think it's like you look at it at first, you think he's like wearing boots, like it might be fake, and then you look and there's toes on the very last frame.
Yeah, this
dude, they got me. When I saw those toes, I was like, I'm out.
I can't. On the film, I can't really tell like what color. It could be a gray color, maybe, or something.
What you've seen the pattern? Why do I keep asking if you've seen it? You've seen the Patterson footage, but when it turns around and looks, what are we looking at there? Like, it looks like it's wearing like a fur mask and has a beard.
Oh, that's just her face. I mean,
it's gray skin.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of Sasquatch have this gray skin. I've seen them. They got this gray skin to a really, really black skin, to even a brown skin. And I've seen them to where they normally show skin, like on Patty, you see her nose is all skin. There's a very, very fine layer of hair
Mm-hmm.
that's just tiny, and I've seen that. And the comparison footage I got up on Long Peak, that Sasquatch was like that. It had fine hair on its face. But
I'll send you I'll send you a pic after a while if I find it. I may go to bed after this. I don't know. I'm just realizing. But there's our friend Randy up in Minnesota's got the game camera of what people are trying to say is a Sasquatch. People are trying to say is a bear standing up, and it's got the for lack of a better word, tenderloins, the backstrap of the animal. Where you can see where there's like a ridge bump where the muscle is, and then where the spine is, there's another bump runs the length of its back.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen the. I just want to look at it and tell me what you think it is, because I'm on the fence. Occam's razor says it's a bear. Not gonna lie, but I don't know if bear have that ridge like a human standing up on its back, like a bodybuilder would look.
No, a bear when it stands up on its back, it doesn't have it's almost similar, but it doesn't really have the flat chestedness, barrel chestedness that kind of a human has in that shape.
Yeah.
So
well, this is just the back of the animal.
Yeah.
You see,
so
like from the back of its head down.
Yeah, when you're standing up and you're looking from the back, typically a bear, and I've seen many bears standing up, and they turn around, they don't really have shoulders.
Yeah,
it's kind of head goes down
flat.
like that.
Yeah,
but it goes from spine to rib cage. They don't really have these like we would. If you're just standing there, you'd be able to see the center of the spine and a large portion of body this way into a shoulder.
So they'd be like a deer. They'd be like a deer when it was hanging up, just like a cylinder.
Yeah, just kind of from back. It kind of curves in like this. It doesn't come out like and then back up and then.
It doesn't look like somebody doing this from the back.
Yeah.
I always call them tenderloins, because that's how country. That's how country I am. I said, look, you can see your tenderloins back there.
No, the tenderloin is inside behind the guts, close to the spine. Yeah. The back straps are the ones right on your back that line your spine on either side.
I used to kill smaller deer at the start of the season for meat, and I'd take him to this processor, and he would not accept the fact that I wanted my loins ground up. I said, look, dude, I'm not trying to have a filet. I'm not trying to have a filet mignon. I'm trying to stuff my college freezer. I said, just grind it up. That's all I want. I want to make Taco Bell. I want to make Hamburger Helper 5 nights a week with this thing.
Yeah, a lot of guys will look at you funny if you take a backstrap or a tenderloin and say, I want to ground it up in the hamburger.
I want all burger, because I'm taking it to college. I'm making Hamburger Helper. This is survival. I'm not wrapping it in bacon and making hors d'oeuvres. Like that's for another. I've done that. I understand. Look at me. I understand. Okay. We'll move on to Wild Tree's favorite topic. Tell us about the time you held a Bigfoot skull in Montana.
I was a little bit up in the air if I like even should have mentioned it or even like really talk about it, but
this is a safe space.
I've mentioned it to different people before, and they kind of looked at me like I was full of shit or stupid, and it really upset me because, man, coming from me, I mean, people don't know me, but I'm as real as it gets, man. And everything that comes out of my mouth is absolute truth. And there's a reason behind that, because I was raised, never lie, never make things up, never try to, because if you sit there and lie and make things up, it's very hard to cover your tracks later on down the road. But, and when people look at me like, I'm full of crap, I'm just like, it is what it is. Believe it or not, it's just the way it is. But anyways, in Montana, there was this guy. He owned a what the hell you call that? Like a sporting goods store, right?
Mm-hmm. Outfitter.
Yeah, he had some guns in there, some hunting equipment, and different stuff for like outdoors type stuff. And anyways, I knew the guy not real well, and I haven't ever since I left Montana. I completely lost contact. When I take a trip to Montana, I'm actually going to see if he's still there. Because you got to understand too, at the time I did not have a cell phone. I didn't have a means of taking a picture, and all I have is my memory of what this skull looked like that was in my hands. But anyways, he was hunting up on the mountain, and I'm not gonna say, I may message you, but don't tell anybody the mountain. Uh,
Oh, I was about to
he,
ask where it was. So yeah, we're good. Keep going.
so it was up in the northern part of Montana, and it's beautiful country. It looks like this area that I'm at here, and well, anyways, he was hunting up there, and there was a little bit of snow on the ground, and he came across that skull sticking out of the snow. The snow, it snowed on top of it, and he stopped his horse. He was on horseback, jumped down and grabbed it, and he didn't know what to think of it. He thought it was like a human skull or something, but yet it didn't quite look like a human skull. But it kind of did, but then it kind of didn't. It's very strange.
Hmm.
It looked like I don't know, like a creature and a human or something. But anyways, come down to his sporting goods store, and there he has it. And I picked it up, and the skull was only this big. It was a small skull. It wasn't nothing ginormous. It was only this big. And I remember the smell coming off of it. I can't even explain the smell. It was a very unusual smell coming off of it. Not real strong. I have never smelt that before, and I don't know if I'll ever smell it again. And what really stuck out to me, its face. It didn't have a bottom jaw. It was only the top.
Mm,
Hmm.
I asked him,
understandable.
was the rest of it around, and he said there was nothing else. It was just this part of the skull sitting there. So we just got the upper part of the skull. Jaw was missing, and the thing that stuck out to me, I said, well, I'll be damned. That's where that crest on the dome crest on top of the head come from.
Hmm.
I said, really now, as I'm looking at this crest that comes from kind of the forehead, and the brow line wasn't, it was a little bit like bigger than mine, but nothing like a monkey or a gorilla. And it was just a little bit bigger than mine. And this crest kind of started from flat and raised up a little bit more and a little bit more, and it had this like fin that come around to and then went down towards the back of the skull.
Hmm.
So it was like this fin on top of its head.
Hmm.
And I looked at it and I said, okay, that makes sense. That's where that dome shaped skull comes from. It's right there. It's actually the makeup of their head. And then I looked and I said, well, this area on either side supports a very large muscle for
Hmm.
their jaws. And I said, well, whatever this guy eats, it must be, I don't know, tough eating. It eats a lot of tougher stuff or something, therefore more jaw crushing power. And the other thing that stuck out was its damn teeth. It had teeth just like a human. Same thing, even though mine are all chipped and jacked up from years of, getting smashed in the face with a beer bottle while I'm trying to drink it. But anyway, my bro's coming up and smacking the end of it and then chip my tooth. But anyway,
Dude, I saw somebody do that one time.
so the teeth on this thing, and it's funny because the head, it didn't come down like in proportion with the rest of the face here. Its head come up from like a smaller top, and as it got down to these teeth, they're freaking huge. The top of its jaw was unusually big for the size of the head of the skull itself. So you got this skull, and you got the crest up here, and it just came down real big. And the teeth were enormous. The front two teeth were they were freaking huge. And then the next set of teeth, these ones next to the teeth fronts, they were very big themselves. And then they came to these, our eye teeth. It came to those little eye teeth that had the same thing. And then all the way back here, very big, it was the same type of molars that we have for grinding meat, for eating meat, and eating vegetation. First thing I thought, holy shit, this looks just like human teeth, but way bigger than any human tooth I've ever seen. And the color of the skull, if I remember right, it was like a light gray, not white, but a light gray to it, and it had dry blood in it. It had dry blood, some on its this side of its cheek. Yeah, this side of its cheek, and a little bit where that crest would be at inside, right here. There was a little bit of dry blood, and when I held it, there was dry blood that fell on my hand, and I could kick myself in the ass for not keeping that little flake of blood. Instead,
that would have been huge.
Instead, I wiped it on my pants after I set the skull back down on the table, and I just wiped my hands. I think the first thing I thought of is the unusual odor it was putting off. You know, you kind of feel like maybe you're going to get some kind of strange bacteria or something from it.
So we just had regular human teeth, no canines or anything.
No,
nothing like somebody would try to think of monkey skull or something.
Not even close, man. It's just like a human set of teeth, but big, like the up top horse teeth, man, but human, big. And then it went up into a smaller, as it come up here, it went smaller. So it was like a mixture between like a ape and I don't know. I don't want to say ape because it's not DNA. There's no DNA that ever said that they were ape. And human. And their face, its face, it didn't protrude. This section didn't protrude out. Just a little bit more than a human would. Just a tad bit more, not much. And you hold a human and that skull up. It's, I don't know. It drives me crazy. It's kind of the most unbelievable thing. I don't know. I hope one day I can get back up there and that fella's still around and I can try to get pictures of this. I'd give anything, you know. I'm probably me and this guy is probably the only people in the world, you know, that we know of or whatever. That's, you know, this guy has this Sasquatch skull. It's a damn Sasquatch skull. An actual, not that fake monkey shit that you seen that one guy all over Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, Yeah, Coyote, which was a 3D printed skull, and I knew it. My wife looked at it. She goes, "Well, that's not nothing like a Sasquatch head."
Mindy has commented, called a sagittal crest.
Sagittal crest, exactly. That's what I was. I don't hold the scientific shit up here as far as names. I just explain country boy style.
Hey, Joe Rogan don't have anything on our producers.
Exactly.
He's got young Jamie. I've got Mindy. I got the full weight of Mindy scientific prowess.
But this skull, it wasn't. It was the most unusual skull I've ever laid eyes on in my life. I've never seen another skull since. I would know if I seen it, but
so it was like a human skull with a sagittal crest on the top.
Yeah, but
wow.
You know how a human skull is like kind of bigger at the top and maintains kind of the same shape going down. This was a smaller on top, come down bigger on the bottom with just a big ass set of teeth, too big for that head. It was weird as hell.
Yeah, like the Harry and Anderson's teeth.
Giant. Yeah, giant. These two teeth right here were just big, man, just big teeth. It's in my mind and it drives me nuts. And then the eye sockets weren't even that big. They were probably a tidbit bigger than normally should for a skull that size, but the shape of that skull and the way the head sit, the way where the spine would come into the skull and the back end back there, where that crest come back in back of the skull, it didn't really have the capability to go down and lift its head straight up like maybe a dog or like a lot of I think monkeys and stuff like that. That shape at the back of the skull where the spine would come up, that's for a bipedal type deal. You know what I mean?
That's what everybody always says about Patterson film too.
Yeah,
Has
it
that
didn't.
same skull structure.
It doesn't have the capability to go down and go all the way down and look up like a dog or something like that would. It's limited. The Sasquatch don't really have a neck. It's shoulders and head. You know what I mean? And when the Sasquatch are on all fours, their arms are a lot longer than ours. So in comparison, if you get down, you're standing up, and you go get down on all fours, our arms are shorter than our legs. Their arms are as long as their legs. So when they get down on all fours, they don't have to really flip their head up to travel on all fours. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've heard the all fours thing. I've heard 2 people tell me that. You're one of them.
Yeah,
it's like the little, like a bison.
Yeah, the little silverback gorilla looking dude up here.
Mm-hmm.
There was 3 of them behind that log, but that one really made himself known. And of course, I've got it on video. If I wouldn't have opened my mouth and said anything, I could have got closer. And instead, I see this, it's like a corridor of trees, and I see this black object back there, and I can't tell with my eyes, so I got to take my camera and zoom in just to see if it's a rock, a stump, a root ball, something. I zoomed in, and I think it was a rock, if I remember right. It was a rock shadowing, and it made it look like something was standing there. And I said, well, shit, it's just a rock. And as soon as I said that, the logs below it, that head popped up. Yeah, that head popped up and looked over the logs at me quick. Went back down, ran on all fours, and he got to a spot where I could see from the shoulder up, and he looked back at me like this, and you could see that dome head, that sagittal crest, not dome head, sagittal crest on the top of his head as he went by. It looked like black, all black fur, or I shouldn't say fur. Supposedly they don't have fur; they have hair. They're very similar to humans, and it almost looked like he had a little bit of like light colored hair that ran down the middle when I seen him with my bare eyes. But yeah, and he popped up, went, and he was only probably about 4 foot tall, you know. But if I wouldn't open my mouth, my big goddamn mouth, I could have got closer. And I would have got a really clear image. That's if they didn't manipulate and try to blur that image out. You know what I mean? I would have got closer and got a bigger image of it. You know what I mean?
Hey, you two, I'm going to run and take a bathroom break real quick. I don't want to end this. I got one more thing to show you. I know Wild Trees has a question. Cool. Give me 10 seconds.
Yeah, let me. Okay, here's my question. Okay, well, also, by the way, thanks for being on the show, and it's been really nice meeting you. I hope to get to know you better. My question was this. Okay, so let me set up the question. So I have this video game called Microsoft Flight Simulator, and what it does is it's a really cool video game because what it does is it makes a 3D model of the entire world. And the way it makes the 3D model is it uses satellite images. So it uses real satellite pictures of the world, and then it makes a 3D model. And then you could fly anywhere you want to in the world. And what I use that program for is like if I have a Bigfoot witness on my show, then I ask them for the location, and I fly over that area so people could see what that area looks like. And I've noticed a pattern whenever I go over someone's Bigfoot sighting, it always looks like an ocean of green. It's always just like from horizon to horizon. Well, except for one time. One time somebody saw a Bigfoot. It was in suburban Ohio. But other than that, yeah, it's usually a sea of green. So my question is, what I want to do is I want to go to some of these areas with this video game and look for evidence of Bigfoot. So my question is very specific, and maybe there is no answer to this, but my question is, what would you look for if you were flying over an area where Bigfoot live, and that's you have a bird's eye view? Is there any kind of pattern you would look for that would indicate Bigfoot are there? You know, is there anything you would be looking for? Is there any way to tell a Bigfoot's been in an area by seeing the area from above?
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, I could just stand on the ground, get up on like maybe a higher point, or maybe on the side of a mountain and look through the trees. If I could see the mountain, I can see and I could tell. And this is just from experience, from years, 33, 34 years of investigating these creatures. Where they would generally be sitting at, like I'm a driver right now for Napa, and I drive through the mountains and go over to the flatlands. As I'm driving through, I sit there and point out every area that I can almost bet you $1 million. If you go in there, you're going to find evidence because I know how to read the land. I know how to read the shadowing of each of the mountains and hills and whatnot. The tree type, you want to pay attention to tree type and what kind of trees and water, where there may be some streams, the valleys,
Okay.
and the ravines and different things like that. And you got to pay attention to all that, and I can pinpoint where I'm going to find some evidence and where I'm going to find them at. It's just like Johnny's Park. This last fall, I got 3 Sasquatch on video, and it's because I tracked them down to that location because of how the land was shaped and how the trees were, how that sun was hitting the mountains and shadowing and illuminating certain parts of that. And my wife tells me all the time, how the hell are you figuring out how to find and how do you know where these damn creatures are? And I said, well, for one, I read the land. I am half Native American too, so that's kind of in our history anyway. We read the land all the time. I'm half Blackfeet, Lakota Sioux, and Cree. And then the other part, I get struck with immense feelings. I get hit with I don't know how to explain it, but feelings that something is there and something's going on.
Okay.
I was going to say, I bet it sounds like you're getting like drawn to them almost.
Yeah, because I find them all the time. Every summer, I find 3 to 8 to sometimes 10 Sasquatch every summer. Sometimes I get them on video, sometimes I don't. Every summer. Is that sad that I see more Sasquatch than I see bear?
It's kind of odd.
Yeah.
Unless the one runs the other one off.
Well, like I said, the 3 Sasquatch up at Johnny's Park, they were small. They just this hominid-looking guys, all hairy, and I'd come up on. I was looking at their structure. I got drawn. Like I said, I was looking at the land, and I figured out from where I stopped in this section how it rounded into a bowl, how the sun was hitting, where I knew there was a creek at, how the trees were, and I told my wife, I said, we need to make our way to that side. I said, I think I might find something over there. And sure enough, we came over there right on and this was a little 4-wheel drive road. It was a horrible road. I took my Ford Explorer my Ford Edge. And I'm driving along, and right off the side of the road, there's this giant X. And I said, oh my God, I knew it. I knew it. I said, this is the spot. And I pulled over, and sure enough, I'm walking down in there. I'm finding these breaks, these crazy manipulation of logs, these bends pointing towards a spring, which I later found out there was a spring just to the kind of northeast of me in that area. And
which is the bend point whenever it's pointing towards something?
It's pointing at water.
Like if they break the tree, do they break it toward the water?
No, typically a break isn't pointed towards water. I've noticed a lot of breaks are pointed at human activity.
What about
something to do with humans?
I mean, but if whatever they're doing is pointing us up, it is the top of the tree. What's pointing at it?
The top is pointing at it. Yes.
Okay.
And
I'll start looking. I find this shit too, and I tried to eliminate that from the evidence, but you're bringing it back into me pretty quick with actual semblance of expertise here. So now I'm gonna start looking closer.
So I'm looking and there's and you get into this area and there's all this deadfall, right? But it's seemingly deadfall. It may have fell naturally. They may have pushed it over. They do it all the time. Nature does it all the time, right? It's very rare to hear a tree fall in the woods anyway. It's very rare. So you're looking down there, and I figured out, okay, if you look into an area, looking around, you see a few deadfall laying on the ground. But you look in this particular spot, and all this deadfall is piled up into this, what I call a Sasquatch lumber yard or something. And it's all like drug in this area. It's just crazy. They're elevated. They're all elevated. You can almost lay on your stomach and look under the whole stack of trees, and they're elevated 2 foot, 3 foot off the ground. And there's a purpose behind that. They can lay down. They can look under those trees. Most of the time, if a human comes around, he's not bothering looking under a tree or something else, maybe. So I seen all this down there, and that next thing you know, I'm looking at this bend, and I look downwards, going north down the mountain, and there's 3 of them. There's 3 of them standing there. There was one standing in the bushes from about its peck location. It looked like pecks. They all look like males, and just frozen, black. And right next to that, there was another one that was standing kind of sideways into a tree. Half his body was cut off by a tree, and he had a little space. And he took a step. When he noticed I noticed him, he took a step. And as he stepped with the right foot, this hand went like that. The left foot went, and this left hand went like that. I don't know what that's about. And then he disappeared into the trees on the other side there. And then over here to the left, there was a smaller one. The one in the middle was the bigger one. He was probably my height or about 6'7", maybe 7 foot. That little one, there was another one on to the left side going in the same direction. He popped up out of some green brush, looked at me. Not a very big sagittal crest on his head at all. And he started walking away, hunched over, pushing brush out of the way as he was looking back at me, looked forward, looked back at me again, and then disappeared into the greenery. I got on the mic and I told my wife, I said, "Oh my God, I just got 3. And I was only 70 yards off the road. The Sasquatch were another probably 60 yards, maybe, give or take, away from me. I got back up to the road, and I told my wife, I said, I got him on video. I mean, it's not the greatest, but they're there. And I said, it was getting dark. It was that time of day they start moving, which is starting around 3:30 my time in this area. 3:30, 4, they start moving. And so I got up to the car. I did the little Austin Powers turnaround on that road.
75-point turn.
Yeah, sitting there, and I got facing the other direction. And as soon as I did that, I got this immense smell of sulfur momentarily, and then it went away. That freaked me out. I had never smelled a heavy smell of sulfur like that after I just seen a Sasquatch. A friend of mine, she's cut. I don't want to say she's a witch, but she knows about stuff like that.
She's a witch. She's a witch.
And she told me that if reality gets ripped into another dimension and it gets ripped, you will get horrible smells. And you'll get, and she said that's probably what you smell is reality ripping or opening, and you smelt that. And they went into that dimension, that parallel dimension to ours.
You think that might be the awful smell everybody reports?
Some of it. I mean, I've smelt heavy smell of nasty urine, like somebody hasn't been drinking water for a long time, and it was just probably just glowing yellow and just smelling bad, you know what I mean?
I've heard they smell like mixed between a billy goat and a skunk.
I've smelled the skunk smell, but that wasn't pee. That was like a body odor, they admitted. I've heard of the billy goat thing. I've out of all the Sasquatch I've ever seen, I've never smelled a billy goat.
Because that's specific. If I was in the woods, deep in the woods, and I smelled a billy goat, like I know exactly what. I'd be like, oh shit, that's real. That's just pure piss and pheromones.
Yeah. There's other times that I've smelt them in the woods, and they straight smelt like somebody hasn't showered.
Yeah.
In several months, like armpit, like how some of those French people they take a shower, they don't use deodorant. They start sweating during the day, and man, they start getting ripe, and it's
okay. You know how when you kill a squirrel and cut its tail off and hang it on something for fun, No, I know you've done that. Have you ever like killed a squirrel and I've been squirrel hunting and cut their tail off and give it to a little kid or somebody, make a necklace?
No, I've never killed a squirrel. I think I might have ran over one once. Maybe.
Wild animals like that have this certain smell to them. I'm wondering if Bigfoot doesn't smell like that, but amplified. Like I was it smells like a squirrel smell.
I think they admit that the smell as a warning for you to leave. I think it's a warning thing.
Yeah, I've heard that before too.
Yeah, because a lot of Sasquatch that I've seen absolutely smell like nothing. I smelt nothing off of it at all. And a lot of Sasquatch I've seen had a heavy smell of pine tree sap. Like, oh, it smells so good. I love that smell. The smell of a heavy pine. And a lot of times, there's been several times that, even I was with my nephews, we smelt that heavy. It smells so good.
Like a logging site, how it smells.
Oh, worse than that. It was so heavy pine smell, and it just smelled so good. Any day of the week, I would take that as a cologne. And and I'll be damned if we didn't start hearing wood knocks and we didn't see a Sasquatch maybe a brief minute run through the trees. And I put two and two together. I said, that's got to be associated with the Sasquatch. Well, why would this little area of the same trees, that miles and miles around of the same tree, that this smells so bad like pine, but the other parts don't? You smell a little bit of pine wood.
Yeah, and if no logging was around, it wouldn't even happen naturally.
No logging at all.
Yeah.
And it just, you get a little bit of smell because they naturally smell good like that.
Yeah, but not like in your face.
Not like somebody just sprayed pine cologne, or it would smell so good though.
Like we have a cedar cabinet mill up the road here, and you can smell it. So I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Anytime like a tornado blows through pines, has that smell.
Oh yeah. So it's just I think that was more of a peaceful. That came across as more of a peaceful, welcoming smell to me, and I've smelt that several times. That heavy pine smell. And it's funny because, that's what I forgot to mention. It's funny, we can go back to the same area to research, just to investigate, see if there's anything else going on, maybe footprints. And that smell never came back. That smell was never there.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured it had to have been them emanating, or maybe they crush up that stuff and put it on them. I don't know.
Yeah, it would definitely take some manipulation of the actual tree to do it if they couldn't just make it happen.
Yeah. But other times, you just get rotten smells. I mean, you smell odors out there. It just smells like pure shit, like human shit. Like somebody just took a dump right by your foot. Oh, it's so horrible. It makes you want to puke. And that just comes out of nowhere. And then you leave the area and the smell goes away too. It's gone. And then there's other times you smell straight up dead animal, like you're standing right next to a dead animal. That's just a horrible, putrid smell. But there's no dead animals anywhere, not even close. I've smelt that before, and I investigated at least a half a mile in the area. But when you get to the center of the area, the worse it smells. You get out of that, the less it smells, until eventually it dissipates. But there are no dead animals. Not a squirrel, not a deer, not an elk, not a moose, not a bear, not a nothing.
And you can usually find a dead animal if it's getting that pungent. It's not hard to find.
Absolutely. As being a hunter and a country boy and seeing it all, and seeing how nature manipulates for us, and how animals do what they do, elk rubbings, deer rubbings, everything,
A flop hole.
I know a lot of people, I've come up on aspen groves, and there'll be snaps, little breaks in those aspen areas. They take the small saplings and snap them over. And the aspen bark is very fragile. I could take my fingernail and peel that bark right off, and there's green showing underneath the white. There's a white powder on it. And the Native Americans actually took that white powder and put it all over there to keep them from getting sunburned. They put it on their skin. And if and I've had people say, "Oh, that was an elk or a moose or a deer that did that to snap that over like that," and I'm like, "Well, if that was an elk, a deer, or a horned animal with antlers or whatever, where's the damage to the bark on this very fragile bark? There's no damage, absolutely none." And I've seen aspens that something with a nice rack has moved through, and he jacked up the bark on all these little trees like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, that's like
Also,
their MO is to jack up the bark.
yeah, it's
It's just
just
what they do.
damage. Yeah, as they walk through, their antlers are hitting those little saplings and stuff. And I've seen them break the saplings, but they're not snapped. They're usually leaned over, or they're laying on the ground and they're damaged. The bark is damaged. These little saplings that were just cleanly snapped and sometimes twisted and snapped with the with the top part facing back the other way, there's no damage to the bark. And I can keep in mind I can damage this bark with my fingernail. I could just peel it off with ease and with hardly any pressure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I found that picture I was telling you about. Not to change the subject that harshly, but check that out. Can you see it? With the back strap here and the spine.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't look like a bear to me at all. It's got an elbow sticking out.
Yeah, you can.
It's right elbow is sticking way out. If you can see right behind the back, there's a right elbow sticking out.
It's
There's-
brighter. It's brighter for me than I think it is for you. I don't know how bright your screen is.
It's pretty bright. I can make it a little, and then I see the left arm is coming up like this or something.
Yeah,
That
they're both elbows are up like here, kind of.
Yeah, this one's further back this way. It's almost like what I say when they're walking through the woods, they can't help but breaking shit, and that's what he's doing. He's pulling shit out of the way and breaking it. That is not a bear, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you see how it just goes all the way up here. I mean, just like all the way to cone.
Yeah, the back of his head. He's got a lot of hair on the back of his head onto his back. You could see that part of the back, like it would be like a human, how it comes from spine to back and then curves in. It's not a smooth and yeah, and I don't know a bear that can bend his arm with an elbow and shit that long, that part of his arm being that long. He's not really capable of bringing that all the way back and having an elbow like that right there.
I spent like 2 hours looking at Google images of black bears standing up.
And nothing resembles that.
Is that a cat?
That's my cat. Yeah.
Oh, is that Nebula the cat?
Yeah, that's Nebula. She's not happy.
Yeah, this was taken near a deer kill that they found in Minnesota, Black Duck, Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Heart and liver were missing.
Yeah.
Back legs snapped.
That's typical. Yeah. Remember what I mentioned earlier? When I've seen Sasquatch kills, their neck is either broken backwards and twisted, or the back legs are snapped. And remember earlier I was talking. I said something about that.
Mm-hmm. Mindy said her cat can hear your cat. It's freaking out. Let's see. What does he say? Deer kill site. Doe was found, one leg snapped, ribs torn open with teeth marks, heart and liver missing. Deer was gone the next morning. No drag marks. Some believe it shows an upright bear. Some think it's a big black Bigfoot. Personally, this is Mike. It's Mike Quast.
Right.
I didn't realize I was reading from a celebrity. Yeah. Bears can clearly see it and would like to find out if an upright bear is able to pull its arms that far back.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's
You'll
be an extreme case.
You'd have to have shoulders. You have to have shoulders to manipulate your arm to bring it back that far. A bear doesn't have the shoulder structure that a human does. Their capability is this way and this way, and about half motion this way. They don't have an elbow long enough to pull all the way back like that thing's doing.
Yeah, that's like a 45-degree angle.
Yeah, that's all the way back here like that.
That's the best picture Randy's got on his page too. Here, look. I just keep going back to it. I'm like, how does this? How do you just have this picture? And like, I just don't. I don't get like if I say this every time. Here's a peanut butter thing.
Oh wow.
This is our friend Randy Bauer from Minnesota that's been on here. He's like my favorite person in the world. He does the gifting and does a lot of gifting.
Oh yeah. I don't get. I've had
Yeah.
bad juju doing that. Well, I wish I could have sent you some pictures. I've got so many pictures that I could have sent you some amazing stuff, and that you could have posted on here to for people to see. Man, I got some really awesome pictures.
We can do it again. We can have like a Bigfoot conference.
Yeah, for sure.
We could get Long Island on here. I feel like me and you
Yeah,
and
Long Island. Is he still
I feel
here?
like me and you, we had Long. I don't know if he's still here or not. We did like a Thanksgiving show at like 10 p.m. on Thanksgiving, night before Thanksgiving. We had all kinds of people on here. We had like a million subscribers worth of YouTube people on my channel. Just because everybody was just bored as shit. We had UFO Man in Long Island and Glenn Jackson. We had a Bermuda Triangle story get dropped. I'm like, where the hell is this been?
That's awesome.
It was intense, man. I guess we'll start to wrap this one up since we have accomplished literally everything we set out to do. I'm not even sleepy. Oh my god, I'm gonna be up so late. I've got adrenaline like I've been fighting somebody right now.
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta eat dinner and get ready to hit the hit the bed myself. I gotta work.
Yeah, I'm sorry to keep you up so late, but I wasn't gonna turn this one off, to be honest.
Oh man, I was more than happy to be here. Heck
Yeah, we'll definitely have you back, and I'll hook you a Wild Trees up on the Facebook, Facey Spacey.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sure he'll want to have you on his channel, which is always more fun and more scientific than me asking if Bigfoot has balls and shit.
Yeah.
Hey, does Bigfoot have balls? It's me.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Thanks for being on. We're gonna go ahead and end live. Thanks for watching, and Mindy, thanks for being smarter than literally everyone I know. I don't know what I'd do without you. Thanks, everyone. We're gonna sign off. Peace.